Hayward, California, a quiet Tuesday morning in spring. On a modest residential street, 74-year-old John Arthur Gautreaux steps onto his front porch. He is a retired grandfather, a former Boy Scout leader, a man never arrested in the United States. He bends to greet his small dog. Then a car pulls into his driveway. A younger man steps out, apologetic and polite.
Hi, good morning. I'm so sorry. I'm super embarrassed.
Yeah.
Hi, puppy.
Just-
Your driveway, and I accidentally hit your car.
Which one?
The one parked in the driveway. Do you want to maybe take a look to see if we should exchange insurance information?
Take a peek.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. So embarrassing.
Sure, something. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Can't be on your back. Wait in the car. Go ahead and face the car.
He says he was turning around and accidentally hit John's car. Would John mind taking a look? John agrees. He walks to the driveway and leans down to inspect the bumper. That is when two more men appear from a nearby van. They are not witnesses. They are deputies from the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office. The apologetic driver is an undercover officer. The accident is a lie. John is patted down and led to a police vehicle. He does not resist. He even compliments the deputy on the ruse. "Good line for coming out of the house," he says. He still does not know why he is being arrested. Cold case investigators have spent months building a trap around him using DNA from a murdered Stanford graduate. Inside the interrogation room, Sergeant Cortez starts gently. He asks for John's birthplace and military service. John says he was born in Newark, Ohio, and spent his teen years on a U.S. Army base in West Germany. Then the sergeant asks, "Have you ever been arrested?" John answers no. The sergeant pauses. "I found out something about that. Something happened in Germany." John looks down. "I was arrested in Germany," he says. "I was accused of murder." In 1963, a 15-year-old girl named Margaret Williams was found strangled behind a youth club. John told German police he did not know Margaret, but a jury convicted him of murder. He received 10 years in a juvenile prison and served 6. After release, his family never spoke of it again. Now in California, John insists he was innocent, but Sergeant Cortez is not there to relitigate a German murder. He shifts to a different killing, one in the hills above Stanford University. DNA has placed John at the center of it. The sergeant asks about a 1975 accusation where a teenage girl claimed John strangled her and threatened to kill her. "Are you familiar with the hills near Stanford?" the sergeant asks. John says he traveled those hills as a scout leader. The sergeant places a photograph on the table. Leslie Marie Perlov, 21, a Stanford graduate. In 1973, she drove into the hills and never came home. A floral scarf was knotted so tightly around her neck that it caused her death. Beneath her fingernails was DNA that did not belong to her. The sergeant asks if John recognizes Leslie. "No," John says. Then the sergeant mentions she was a college kid. John responds, "Why do you say she's a Stanford graduate?" The sergeant pauses. He had not said the word graduate. He lets the moment hang. Then he changes tactics, talking about DNA transfer. "How do you think your DNA would be on a person?" he asks. "Don't know," John says. "Especially this person or these two persons," the sergeant adds. John's eyes narrow. "What two persons?" The sergeant has only shown one photograph, but John asks, "The one up on the hill?" Then he says, "There's 2 different places you're talking about. One of them's up on the hill, and the other one, I don't remember another one." The sergeant knows that in 1974, another young woman, Janet Taylor, was found strangled in the same hiking area. Police had never publicly linked the 2 murders. They never told John about Janet, but John just referred to the other girl. A second investigator enters. "It's not an accident that your DNA got there," he says. "You committed this crime." John shakes his head. The investigator leans closer. "You had to have known this day was coming." John replies, "Yeah, I knew that, but why it took so damn long. Then he asks, "What do you mean, the first girl?" and stops talking. John looks at the table. The room is silent. Then he says, "I'd like a lawyer." The interrogation ends, but John has revealed knowledge only the killer could have. He knew there were 2 victims. He knew one was found on a hill. Without a confession, investigators still had DNA under Leslie's fingernails. Months later, testing on Janet Taylor's body confirmed the match. John Arthur Gatroy was not just a murderer, he was a serial killer. Janet, 21, a nurse's aide, had been strangled and sexually assaulted. Her case went cold for 44 years. In September 2021, a jury found John guilty of Janet's murder. He showed no emotion and did not apologize. In early 2023, he pleaded guilty to killing Leslie Perlov, receiving a second life sentence. He never explained why he killed them. After his release from German prison in 1969, he worked as a security guard, married, had children, and became a Boy Scout leader. A 1975 sexual assault accusation came from a girl in that program. By then, Leslie and Janet were already dead. On September 22, 2023, John died in prison at 79 from COPD complications. With John's death, the full truth died with him. No deathbed confession, no letter. His DNA profile remains active in state databases, still being compared against unsolved homicides from the 1970s. Investigative genetic genealogy, using public DNA databases to find distant relatives, caught him. Without it, he would have died free. The Stanford Dish hiking area remains popular, but the case is now taught in cold case seminars. John's own fatal mistakes, asking about the first girl and the one up on the hill, are played for trainees as an example of what not to say.